Good afternoon. I'm Joel Davney, the CEO from Cloudnexa. I'd like to welcome everyone here today to our presentation. Flying through airport and stadium security using a multi-regional managed solution on AWS. I want to tell you a little bit about Cloudnexa before we get started. Some of you may have heard of us. We're a premier partner here in the Amazon ecosystem. We've been around for quite some time, since 2008 actually. And our core focus is mid-market customers, both in the commercial and the public sector space. We really try to work with companies that have a desire to adopt rapidly. And that's really what today's presentation is all about with Kevin Lupowitz, who's the CIO at Clear. Kevin has a long career focused on transactional trading platforms, spent 11 years as CIO with LiquidNet, where he started the organization from the ground up, grew it to from a single market in the US to 39 markets globally with over roughly 600 trading partners. And I think Kevin, having worked with Clear for the past 15 or 16 months or so, has really proven his chops in terms of transactional leadership. It's really been a pleasure to work with the team and their commitment. He's fastidious in terms of his attention to detail, both in working with Cloudnexa and Amazon as their partner, but also in his commitment to bringing cloud computing to the Clear platform. We helped, as Kevin will get into, we helped migrate Clear out of a traditional data center environment into GovCloud. And as we'll get into in a little bit, there's some compliance requirements that Clear solves. One of the really exciting things about Clear is they're reinventing themselves as well. And as the title indicated, they've got some exciting announcements where they're helping at least one Major League Baseball stadium help get their customers through the gates, the security gates, quickly and securely. And we're really excited to work with Clear as they expand their unique identity management solution, not only for airport security, but a whole host of other industries that have the need to identify who's coming into their business and validate that they're good players and not bad players coming into to do business with the rest of the customers in their market. So please, without any further, I'd like to introduce Kevin, and we'll get started with the presentation today. Thank you.
Thanks, Joel. Hey, well, thanks for coming. Clearly, this is something interesting to you, because you made a long trek to get over here, so I appreciate that. I thought after that introduction, I'd just give a little bit more information about Clear, just to kind of set a platform for where we are and kind of what we do. So, as it says here, we call ourselves the ATM of identity. Really, we are an electronic identity management platform that's used as biometrics and is currently being applied in airports. We are Safety Act approved, which means that we are approved by the Department of Homeland Security as an anti-terrorist technology solution. So what we're allowed to do through our technology is allow you to, when you come into the airport, walk right up into a clear lane, skip the normal kind of TSA lane, which is unpredictable. Sometimes you go to the airport, it's 5 minutes. Sometimes you go to the airport, it's 45 minutes. In our case, you go right into the clear lane, and you know that you're going to get through security in 5 minutes or less every time. And you could bank on that, and you could account for that. And that's predictability, and we're adding predictability into travel. We're extending our platform, as Joel mentioned, in airports quickly by tying into concessions. So again, the travel experience is once you go through the lane and you authenticate who you are, you'll then have the option to say, I'd like a bagel and a coffee waiting for me on the other side of security, charge it to my credit card. Once you get through security, just go to our concession partner and pick it up, and it's waiting for you, and you walk right to your gate. So it's really streamlining that whole process. And as Joel pointed out, we're starting to expand beyond airports into some other fields. And I'll jump right to that one, which is sporting venues. So we did a pilot with the San Francisco Giants, which, if you're going to pick a pilot to do, I would absolutely recommend picking the World Series champions to pilot with. That went really well. We were there for the last 10 games, and the same type of thing. All the Clear members who showed up to the game, instead of going through metal detectors, could go into the Clear line. Once they authenticated themselves through their biometric image, they could go right in without having to go through a metal detector. And that is because not only did we identify who they are, but we also run a risk-based algorithm based on commercially available data, and so that we know that they are a low risk, and that's why they're allowed to skip that metal detector. So in 2015, for example, all of Major League Baseball is going to have, every ballpark you go to is going to have magnetometers, metal detectors, for every fan to go through. So hopefully we'll get into some more ballparks to facilitate ease of entry into the ballpark. So the airports we're in, just a quick mention, and I'll tell you this, and you're so lucky to be here because there'll be a promotion at the end where you get to take advantage of this, so stay tuned. But we're opening in McCarran in 2 weeks, so it's very timely to be here now. So when you come to reInvent next year, you'll be able to, depending on, well, you may not be able to come in, we may not be in your home airport, but we will for sure be in this airport, so you can get out really quickly. Cannot help you with the taxi line, but I can help you get into the airport quickly. And then we have Miami coming on board, and as I said, McCarran will be our 10th airport. So when I started, as Joel pointed out, I started just about 2 years ago, actually. We were just in 5 airports. So we've effectively doubled our footprint size in airports in the last 2 years, and we've gotten into sporting, and we have this notion of a much larger platform. In fact, we imagine that when we're at reInvent next year, we'll be talking about having the ability to tie into our platform through the market, through AWS Market, which would be amazing. So, you could imagine building applications where you put down, you send through a biometric image, and we could send you back some credentials, and we could send you back some ID, and depending on how you're provisioned. And that to me would be a phenomenal thing to announce. And so we've got this mindset. We had this mindset about 2 years ago. But again, as Joel pointed out, we had a number of constraints then. We were in a very kind of brick and mortar environment. We had when I came in, most of our software had been outsourced and had been legacy, and it was time to really, as we saw the growth and we realized the business value of this, we decided to really take control of our assets, bring everything in-house. So we started bringing in our own technology group, and we started thinking about how is this going to expand, and can we support this in a brick and mortar? And clearly the answer was no. Forgive the pun. I'm going to say clearly a lot, but I'm going to stop apologizing for the pun. So we saw this growth coming. We realized that we didn't understand how big the growth was going to be. We understood that cloud was the direction we were going to go. Now, because we are effectively Safety Act approved, and we have certain rigor that's enforced by TSA and Department of Homeland Security, we do adhere to NIST standards. We do adhere to FISMA standards. We knew that if we were going to go to the cloud, we needed a FedRAMP solution. We needed a solution that we could go to these regulators and make them feel comfortable with. We collect a lot of PII, a lot of personally identifiable information, and we needed to have a good story to all of the regulators. So FedRAMP was obviously going to be the way we were going to go. And we started looking at the universe of FedRAMP cloud providers, and obviously AWS GovCloud was in the list. And between AWS's reputation and the number of services they offered, at least in the commercial side, we knew that this is where we wanted to go. So that's when we made the decision in September 2013. So what I'm going to tell you now is the story of how that progressed, and I will tell you consider this a cautionary tale. We were a very small shop, very small number of individuals who were doing this, but we had tremendous growth. And if you kind of put your mindset in that time, you could imagine that we had opportunities coming out of the woodwork. We had things that we wanted to move very quickly on. We had new new airports we wanted to roll out. We had new other types of partners that we wanted to work with. So we needed to get our stuff migrated very quickly. Plus, we were paying a lot of money for brick and mortar, and we wanted to be cost efficient. So we decided that we needed to move very quickly. So the first thing we decided to do is stick our toe in the water with AWS on the commercial side. So we took our public-facing website, which really doesn't collect any information at all, and we decided, all right, let's take this and let's put that into commercial. And this made sense for us. Again, we're not collecting any information. It's really kind of a one-way push of a kind of marketing thing. We were rebuilding our website anyway, so we figured this is a good opportunity to kind of move it. Commercial supported a version of the operating system that we were comfortable with CentOS 6. So we decided that was the way it was going to go. Now, it went okay. That went okay, but we did run into some issues. And again, we were a young group without a lot of AWS awareness, and we decided to dive right in. You know, if I had all the time in the world, I probably would have done it differently. If I had an unlimited budget, I probably would have done it differently. But under the circumstances, this is what happened. And we ran into one challenge really with the fact that we used an external DNS solution. And we, you know, because we forklifted this over effectively, didn't work and with the dynamic nature of IP addresses in AWS. And so we had to kind of kludge a solution together early on, which is have effectively a static server that was going to redirect traffic. But once we kind of got through that, we felt good, and we said, all right, we declared success there. So thing two, now move everything into AWS. And at this point, we kind of made the decision, and again, we had these massive constraints. We had these constraints of time and dollars, and I didn't want to, and I think everyone in this room has probably been in that case where, you know, you've started a project and it leaked and leaked and leaked and creeped and creeped and creeped, and you never fully got there, and then suddenly other stuff came, and we just didn't want to expose ourselves to that trap. So we basically said that we are going to shut down our old data center in 3 months. We gave ourselves 3 months, and we said, you know, no matter what happens, we're flipping the switch off. So we really need to get everything over. Again, there are people in the company who hate me for pushing that, but anyway, everyone survived, which is the happy end of the story. But we ran into a lot more challenges here, and this is where the cautionary tale part comes in. We decided to make a move to AWS version of Linux because, you know, if we're making the move to AWS, we might as well go all in, and so we might as well be on the natively supported operating system. So there were some challenges there, and you know, it took a lot more to get our application to feel very comfortable in that environment. The other thing to be aware of is, again, we were in this old brick and mortar data center with really big servers, and you know, it's like a budget. If you have a really big budget, you'll find a way to use it, and the software found a way to use up all the resources on those servers. So when we migrated those over and effectively did a forklift over into GovCloud just to get it done, the only instances we could run on were XL instances, and that is expensive. And we realized that we also lost a lot of our redundancy. A lot of the old legacy code was very bespoke to that environment. It was very specific to that environment, and just forklifting it over and expecting everything to work as is was, well, it just didn't happen. So we actually had to make the decision in order to get there in that 3-month period. We had to effectively cut our failover, which meant that we just had to have engineers and help desk sitting there looking at terminals 24/7 until we figured that out. But we made the conscious decision early on that if there was going to be any pain, we were going to feel the pain ourselves, because then we'd be incentivized to fix the pain, right? So throughout this whole migration, I will say that our members never felt it. There was no downtime at all. Again, everyone in engineering group, it clear hated me, but Pain is temporary, and they survived. The last thing is, if you understand Clear, when you go into the airports, there are kiosks there, and there are people who work at these kiosks, and they're there for enrollment. So when you go in, you enroll with your passport and driver's license, and we capture your biometrics, and we do an identity quiz. There's verification kiosks where you go into the lane, and you put your finger down and scan your boarding pass, and you go through. All of those kiosks are either on a shared or individual router, and each one of those routers has its own VPN connection back to AWS, in this case, in GovCloud. So this is really where having a partner like Cloudnexa came in tremendously well. I mean, obviously they helped us with the migration, they helped us get comfortable and helped us understand how to monitor not just our usage, but how to monitor our application, and they introduced us to tools like AppDynamics and helped us implement AppDynamics, which gave us a lot of intelligence as to what was going on. But they also helped us work with AWS to make sure that we could have the number of VPCs and the number of VPNs that we needed to tie those kiosks back to us. So they worked really as a great extended member of our engineering team. So the good news is we got it done in 3 months. And in February, we were over and we shut the lights off in our old data center. And again, this is just a quote that I was trying to throw in. It's one of my favorite quotes, so thank you for reading that. So February we're in, and everything is up and running, and we turned off the old data center, which is great. But we are still hugely not optimized. So we're running on a ton of servers, really big servers. We don't have great monitoring. We don't have great failback except for manual intervention. And we're losing a lot of sleep. We can only do deployments in the middle of the night because we can't do things down. So we lost all of our agility in the development cycle. There was a lot of concern there. So we needed to move quickly. So really the next thing we had to do was optimize for AWS, and we spent a good deal of time doing this. So we had to first focus on our code base. We had to go into our code base and make it more efficient. So we ended up having thousands of threads running in our existing code, in our legacy code base under inspection. And again, AppDynamics was a great tool to help us realize that, and it helped us focus in on where the bottlenecks were and where these threads were leaking from and how to get in there. And we spent a lot of time just going in there and knocking those down. And that gave us the opportunity to reduce the size of the servers that we were running on, right? Next thing we did was we had to focus on load balancing. Load balancing obviously is important because if something goes down, you want to not have any interruption in service, but it also allows us to deploy midday. So you could bring down a node, update it, bring it off the load balancer, update it, bring it back on the load balancer, bring something else down. Lets you do this intraday, so we're not having sleepy engineers during the day because they're doing all their deployments at nighttime. And then we started taking advantage of a lot of the services that were offered by AWS. So by moving into RDS, for example, we got to get rid of some servers, and we got to move both our kind of data analytics platform and our transactional platform into RDS, and that saved us a lot of time. It saved us a lot of money, and it was less servers for us to manage. We moved into Amazon storage solution. Obviously, same thing. We had everything locally on the servers, and this was this is a better way to save money and just be more compliant with AWS monitoring. And obviously, getting more into security groups. So we no longer had, I no longer needed a dedicated person to sit there and do hardcore firewall work, and could reallocate them to more heady stuff. So what we're able to achieve through that process up until now is we can now do deployments intraday. We now have lots of redundancy. We can scale up and scale down all the goodness of the cloud, and we started realizing that. Again, it took us a long time to realize that. We were 3 months of pain to get over to AWS, but it was our pain. It took us another 3-4 months to start realizing the value of some of these optimizations, but we were able to realize it. And it was a tremendous investment, but we got there. So the next things that we're looking at, I still consider us very much of a novice AWS user. And again, partnering with Cloudnexa and some of the other providers that they bring to the table is helping us. But there's a lot that we need to take advantage of from AWS, and we still plan on taking advantage of. So we're looking at Route 53 instead of using our external DNS platform, bringing it in-house and being more kind of AWS-esque in that capacity. Looking at Elastic Beanstalk in commercial. I think the consensus is we won't really see Elastic Beanstalk in GovCloud, just because of the nature of GovCloud and the desire not to get too deep into what's going on there. It's going to be very hard for Elastic Beanstalk to work there. But there are some other things that we're looking at in GovCloud that I'll get to. And obviously continued managed growth through Cloudnexa. So we're using their VNOC to do things like scheduling our processes, our dev and QA processes, so that we could take them down overnight and not have to pay for them. We could do better cost analysis. We could start seeing how we're trending to budget and making sure that we're being smart about how we're allocating resources. We're using them for snapshots to do our backups of all of our environments. And we've just recently upgraded to their premium managed services, which I don't know, I think they announced it. They wouldn't let me talk about it if they didn't announce it, so I'm guessing yes. So it's a partnership with AppDynamics, Sumo Logic, and Trend Micro. And it's been great. I mean, we're already using AppDynamics, so it just extended our base to use that. We've been talking to Sumo Logic for quite a while, and we're really excited to bring that in. Again, you could imagine hundreds of kiosks out in the wild, lots of logs. So being able to consolidate all that and very quickly filter and look for patterns, really helpful. And obviously Trend Micro from a security perspective, because security is really the business that we're in. So learnings. Again, I think of us as a cautionary tale. We went in eyes wide open in our decision to burn the ships behind us, commit to AWS. I think if we could go back in time, now that we're living in the future, it's easy to go back and say, oh, these are the things we would have done differently. But as we're preparing this and kind of talking this through, I don't know that we would have done things that differently. I think under the circumstances, small team, legacy code base, we could have been in here analyzing, looking at this stuff for weeks, months, maybe years. Before we fully committed over. So I think the way we did it was the only way it could be done in a reasonable amount of time and in a cost-efficient way. I think having a partner like Cloudnexa that we could pick up the phone and say, what's going on here? We don't understand this, and can you help us work with AWS along these lines was invaluable, and I don't think we would have been able to do it without them. Obviously, and I think this goes without saying, but one of the things that was a real gotcha was that GovCloud, which we have our entire production environment in, does not talk to the commercial side, and that was done clearly on purpose. So we had to spend some time and energy building bespoke VPNs between those two regions if we wanted to create routes there, and that was something that we had to build. I don't know if that's going to change. I can't imagine that's going to change very much. So that was a tremendous kind of takeaway. Security groups are very different from firewalls. We learned a lot about security groups. We realized that on the plus side, it's much easier to implement, but it's not as granular as firewalls. And that was something that we know, but until you get in there and start playing with it, you don't realize what those differences really are. And then we have a pretty big wish list. Frankly, everything, we'd like a lot of the services that are in, or most of the services that are available in commercial, we'd love to see in GovCloud. And I think some of them are announced or hinted at coming over. But you can see some of the ones that we're very much focused on. So that is my story in brief. What else can I tell you? It's an intimate crowd. You can ask questions. We have two of the guys who suffered through this sitting right here, ready to answer. That gentleman, Joel?
You'd be interested to know what systems you have to tie into other than your own, as opposed to the TSA.
So yeah, so the question is, what other integrations, third-party integrations, do we have? So let's see. I don't know if I'm allowed to name names, but I'll give you kind of the types of solutions that we tie into. So during enrollment, we go to a commercial data aggregator to create a quiz. So you've seen these bank quizzes that once we have your biographic information, your name, address, we can go back and generate a quiz that, one or two questions that only you know the answers to, so we have to tie into that. We also tie into a billing system. We've outsourced our billing system, so all of our credit card information and that type of PII doesn't stay within our servers, and that goes off. On the back end, when we capture your biometrics, we are part of what is known as the Registered Traveler Program. So the Registered Traveler Program is a TSA-approved program. There is a clearinghouse, which is a consortium of, it's a consortium called AAAE, which is a consortium of airports that work with another private sector company, and they produced effectively a clearinghouse. So when you enroll with us, we take the entire payload of all your biometrics, ship it off to that clearinghouse. That clearinghouse does some validation checking, making sure that we have good scores in the biometrics, and does deduping and that type of thing, and then applies templates to it, which is effectively a one-way hash of all your biometrics, puts an electronic signature on it, and ships that payload back to us. We take that payload and we send it to another third party that creates a smart card, and that's what gets sent to you. So today, you get a card in the mail when you enroll, so that when you go into the airport, you present your boarding pass and card, and we do a match. What we've been building is a cardless solution. So what you'll see next year is no card. You finish your enrollment, and you can turn around and go to your verification kiosk, and you're ready to go. You don't have to wait for the card to come. So those are the primary systems that we integrate with. Obviously, we work in tandem very nicely with TSA. So for example, if you go in the lane and you're pre-check eligible, we will put you right into the pre-check lane. If you're not pre-check eligible, you go right into the normal screening, but there's no systems integration there. Did I miss anything? No, it's good. Sir?
Actually, I have two questions. First one is, broadly, what was the biggest benefit you think that you got out of this transition in that company? The second question is, has this changed your staffing model in terms of the skill sets and the people that you have on board versus what was before? Or are you able to take kind of your existing or your old legacy infrastructure support organization and
Yep.
bring it forward as well?
Yeah. So the first answer is tremendous benefits. I mean, the first benefit is cost savings. I mean, we're spending substantially less. We have now 3 times the number of servers in that we support than we did in our brick and mortar, and we're paying less on a per month basis. So that's, you can't beat that. Obviously, the ability to surge when we need to. So, we have a big, I'll give you an exact example. We had a partnership with Hertz car rental, and they sent out a mailing to 900,000 Hertz members with a special enrollment package. And actually, before, that just reminded me, I should show you this. Speaking of a promo code, there's a promo code. You could all try out Clear and get 6 months free. So I would suggest you all light it up. Just when you get to the promo code field, put in Clear for AWS, and you should do it. 6 months free. But anyway, when Hertz came out and we knew that that surge was coming, we were able to see our capacity go up by an order of magnitude, for that day and a half after that email blast came out, because they didn't leak it out, they went boom, and it all came out, and our servers went up. Our response time never exceeded 100 milliseconds. It never spiked. Even though the load spiked massively, we were able to surge up the number of servers, and that would never have happened. You can't just go out and provision, buy more servers and rack them and get all your systems set up, and when marketing comes to you and says, we're going to do a push, right? So having that ability is massive. We wouldn't have been able to support 10 airports on our existing platform. I mean, we had to grow. We wouldn't have been able to support the giants, and we wouldn't be able to go out and build this cardless platform, which is going to be, much more compute heavy, much more data heavy than we'd ever been before. So it was really positioning, but it was also, we've realized a lot of that value. In terms of the people side of things, one of the things that we did add was a DevOps position. He's sitting right here if you want to talk to him, this guy right here, who has that experience and was able to come in and help us be intelligent about how we are deploying, how, deployment is just a whole nother animal, right? And being able to take advantage of the services that are offered through AWS in deploying, being able to build appropriate and use existing monitoring to be intelligent on how we're monitoring, being able to have that discussion with the engineering group and help them build solutions that are going to take the best advantage of the platform that we're sitting on. That was invaluable. So Vic was the one addition from that perspective. But then it was also an opportunity to take our existing resources who hadn't experienced this before, and it was career growth, right? We went through a lot of training and got them really intelligent and let them dig into something that maybe they wouldn't have been able to do. So we didn't. I look at that as a huge advantage. I mean, giving people a sandbox and the ability to go out and expand their universe and get really intelligent about a whole new kind of cutting edge set of technologies was really great. So that was really great from a retention and people like to own a solution they help build, and it was great from all those perspectives. So Will is here, and he's our head of app development. So he was dogmatic in our ability to not bring in anyone who was AWS only from before, but that we were going to build up from within, and that's what we did. What else? Oh, Joel's got a question.
We're all so concerned about cost of payment, and I'm just curious to know the pitch to baseball lines. Are you turning to a comparison between what your service versus traditional service? Do you see differential benefits between your services and traditional, I guess, labor-intensive services?
Yeah, I mean that's absolutely part of our pitch to MLB and the other sporting. So we're talking to not just baseball, but a few of them. So, but I'll use baseball as an example. So as I mentioned, in 2015, every ballpark is going to need to have metal detectors. And you can imagine, so the Giants, San Francisco Giants, actually started that this year because they wanted to be in front of that, and they wanted to see what that was going to feel like. And what that felt like was you had lines that were 30 or 40 minutes long, and you had, you were in the bottom of the first inning, and people were getting upset because they were still waiting online to get inside. And they have tremendous cost in building out this whole security infrastructure that's going through a metal detector. The problem with the metal detectors, when you go through, if everyone goes through, fine. But as soon as one or two people buzz and you have to get pulled over, that whole line backs up. And there's queuing theory, and all of that applies to people moving through a line also. And so they had to have a tremendous, security force. What they were able to do, and what we pitched to them, and what they were able to realize with us is, because we had a dedicated lane where we authenticated who the person was, so they knew that Kevin was coming, that I was Kevin, and there was a risk-based, I was a low risk based on the algorithm that we developed also. I could go through without getting wanded or without going through the metal detector, so I could just walk through. And what that means is they can reallocate a lot of their security force from there and to the unknown population. The other nice thing for MLB was they now, for the first time, got to understand at least some of the population that was in their stadium. And so from a marketing and a loyalty perspective, they could know, even if I bought my ticket on StubHub or Joel gave me a ticket for talking at his AWS thing, they would know that it's me, even though Joel bought the ticket, who's there. And they could start doing a lot of really intelligent stuff. So it was a great conversation with them, both from a, we're going to help you enhance security and help you reallocate your security forces so you could focus on the unknown population instead of the known population. But it was also giving you intelligence on who's in your ballpark and using that from a marketing and loyalty perspective, which is really interesting to them. Sir.
Is Clear doing the analytics on people's information to determine risk, or are you plugging into another source for that?
So we're doing that. The source that we're plugging into is that commercially available data aggregator. And I should mention, all of this is opt-in. So this is again eyes wide open, but it's the same type of thing where once we get your biographic information, we can make a call, bring down. I mean, it's amazing how much publicly available information there is about people, and we've developed an algorithm that really can be fine-tuned. Very different for airports than for ballparks. You're looking for different types of bad characters, but we've produced an algorithm that can effectively segment bad characters from good characters, and using that, we can create a score. And as long as you're above a given threshold, you're considered a low risk. What else? Yeah.
How many people do you have data on?
How many people are in our database? Let's see. I don't know that I'm allowed to give you the exact number, but it's measured in hundreds of thousands.
And what kind of growth are you seeing?
So we are, like I said, we were at 5 airports when I started about 2 years ago. We're at 10 airports with McCarran. We've got Miami and 2 others that are coming on in the next quarter. We will probably get into some of the biggest airports in the country also in 2015. And the way it works is each airport, obviously, it's kind of a network effect. So you add on one airport, you obviously bring on that home base. But now, if we were able to open in Boston, anyone who's in San Francisco who flies to Boston, who maybe didn't get us just because we're only in their home base, but they go to Boston a lot, they'll tie on also. And obviously, Las Vegas is a great part of the network also. So the growth goes up nicely from that. And obviously, as we start getting into ballparks, that's a tremendous growth. And so we're very kind of bullish on that. But then, as I mentioned earlier on, the longer term vision is really looking at what we do as an asset. So we have this database of identities, and they're tightly coupled biometrics. And you can imagine a platform, with a fully baked SDK and certification process and development and QA environment that anyone who is certified could tap into and help pull down identities and their corresponding credentials, depending on what they're provisioned for. And that platform, I think, is really exciting for us. And that platform exists. We eat our own dog food, so everything that we build now is based on that platform. It's just exposing it. Yeah, go ahead.
One more.
Sure. They said I wasn't going to get any questions, so.
Just about kind of the elasticity or the spikes in demand. So you see that a lot from your airport clients, and I'm thinking not so much the sign-up, but we talked about the services as they're going through the line. And is it different with baseball? And because of that, did you have to do anything different on how you architect?
Yeah, there's, you hit on a lot of stuff right there. There's very different characteristics, and airports are pretty, they're pretty predictable. Monday is always the busiest volume day. Wednesday is always the slowest. You know times during the day. So it's very predictable, and you could look at patterns over the last few years, and it's going to follow those patterns perfectly. Baseball is the same way. I mean, it's a very different pattern. You've got that, if people start, the gates open 2 hours before a game, you get nothing, 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 and then, a half hour before the game, you get a big surge, right? And then it comes down from there. And then you start looking at, games, if you're in multiple ballparks, you have, those overlapping games. You have, surges on the enrollment side also. You have these big marketing pushes, or we'll do big promotions and those types of things that you have to account for. But the other thing that you hit on is a big paradigm shift in how we're doing things. When we're doing cards, it's a very different solution, and what we're doing on the processing side and the communication side and the networking side to a cardless solution. So all of that compute goes from local to centralized, and which there's a significant amount of engineering that's happening, kind of outside of the cloud that's happening, boots on the ground to make sure that we have really great redundancy in communications, because that's essential for to service our customers. Thank you. Cool. All right. Thanks for everyone for coming. I hope this is helpful.